Pakistani?
Thank you very much for joining us. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, we opened the gates and let you Glaswegians through, so welcome.
Oh, thank you. I'm so keen. You're going to take us for a trip?
Yeah, I should have said to you to bring some warmer clothes because it's really windy here. That's why it's called the Windy City, but yeah, welcome to the city. So we're just outside 𝕉𝖆𝖙 station just now, and to my left is the 𝕉𝖆𝖚 Hotel. 𝕉𝖆𝖚 is a place up north where the Queen Mother used to go to and where the royal family still visit. It's a very grand hotel. And then to my straight on, we're looking at what is called the Old Town. It's absolutely beautiful. The buildings are very early 16th, 17th century. Just towards the right of the Old Town, you see on that hill, that big huge building, that is Edinburgh Castle. I know, can you believe that in the middle of a city we have a castle? Wow, it's amazing. Edinburgh Castle is about 800 years old and it's had 23 sieges in it. Usually it was the Scottish fighting the English, or maybe the English fighting the Scottish, but one or the other. And the oldest building in Edinburgh Castle is St Mary's Cathedral, and it's a beautiful building. It's built on a volcanic rock that's about 350 million years old, so we are in no danger of it going off because it hasn't gone off for 350 million years, so we're fine. Now we're looking at Princess Street. You see this street? Do you know what the name comes from, Princess Street?
Not really.
No? Well, you know, before I came here, I used to think it was called Princess Street, i.e. like a princess, female, but actually it was named by King George for his sons. So it's actually, he had two sons, and he called the street Princess Street, so after his two sons. Yeah. It was originally going to be called St Giles's Street. St Giles is the patron saint of Edinburgh. But because King George was very much wanted to put his stamp in the city of Edinburgh, he called it Princess Street. The next street after this is called George Street, which he named after himself.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, a bit of narcissism going on there, yeah. And then towards the left-hand side of Princess Street, we have Charlotte Square. And Charlotte Square is, funnily enough, named after King George's wife. He was a real family man, wasn't he?
All in the family.
All in the family. And again, to the left, we can't see it, but we will walk along there, are Princess Street Gardens. And the Princess Street Gardens actually came about because, do you know there was a loch in Princess Street? Did you know that? Yeah. There was a loch, it was a drainage, and it stank. So they decided to actually to drain the loch and fill it in and make it gardens. Absolutely, yeah. And you know how we were looking at, this is the Old Town to the back? Now, when the Old Town was getting very full, they needed people to move, so they built the New Town, which is past George Street. And the New Town is where all the really expensive buildings are now that cost £1 million each. You can see the 𝕉𝖚𝖚 Castle, 𝕉𝖚𝖚 Hotel, sorry, and you see they've got a clock on it. Now, the story goes that clock is never on time. It's actually 3 minutes ahead, and I think it was made specifically for Pakistani people so that we wouldn't run late. And further behind that on the hill, you can see Carlton Hill. Now, Edinburgh is also called Athens of the North, and you see the temple with the pillars. That's like the Acropolis for us. It's a beautiful, beautiful temple. Some people say that it was never finished, but actually if you go up there, the steps are 2 feet high. Historians think that it really wasn't made to climb, it was just made to view. And it's such, when you stand at the top of Carlton Hill, not that we're going to do that because it's far too many steps and it's far too windy and you'll never be able to hear me. When you stand at the top of Carlton Hill, you can get a full 360 degrees view of Edinburgh and looking out to the Forth of Firth. You can look up to the mountains. Absolutely beautiful. To my left, we can see all the shops along Princess Street. You've got all the main high street shops, and we're lucky actually that the shops are still open because, as you know, so many people are shopping online. We're standing outside H&M and there's actually a queue of at least 15, 20 people waiting to get into H&M, which is just amazing. Further down the street you'll see a beautiful building, that's where Jenner's is, and if you look at the architecture, it's absolutely stunning. And it's just amazing that it's actually a shopping centre here. The next street further down, I said to you, was George Street, and that was named after King George. That's where all the designer shops are. Edinburgh is a beautiful city. It's beautiful for its buildings, the architecture, the history. Of course, it's the capital of Scotland. But what Glasgow has, I would say, are better shops. Behind me is the monument of Sir Walter Scott. Sir Walter Scott was one of Scotland's most famous authors. He wrote books like 𝖉𝖆𝖏, The Lady in the Lake, and these have been made into films. To get to the top of this monument is 257 steps. We're not going to do that. Not today. And in my case, not ever. It's a spiral staircase. If I went up, I wouldn't be coming down. At the bottom of the monument, you can actually see the statue of Sir Walter Scott. And the story behind this structure was after he died, they had a competition. Even in the 1800s, they had competitions to design this building. And the competition was won by an amateur architect called George Kemp. You had to change his name and pretend to be an architect because he was really a joiner and he would never have won the competition. So it just goes to show you, names are important. We're just going to walk up Cockburn Street, which will take us into the Royal Mile. And because Edinburgh is a small enough city you can walk round, this would be my normal haunt, up and down these stairs. Look at those stairs. Dekho kitne stairs.
How ancient are they? Kitni purani?
Yeah, mere se bhi zyada purane hain wo.
Come on.
Yeah, I'm just बहुत है मैं कह रही मेरे से भी ज़्यादा पुराने हैं ये शुक्रिया आपका बहुत शुक्रिया देखिए ये कितनी अच्छी दुकान है राज देखें ये कितनी I love jewelry ये सारे water of pearls ruby rings बिल्कुल ये टूरिस्ट सेंटर है सो बहुत सारे लोग आते हैं देखते हैं कि कितनी खूबसूरत चीज़ें बनी और मेड इन स्कॉटलैंड बनी है ना तो फिर अपने मुल्क में वो लेके वापस लेके जाते हैं कहते हैं ये तो मैंने स्कॉटलैंड से एडिनबरा से खरीदा है बहुत ही अच्छा होएगा. So we're walking up Cockburn Street and normally at this time of the year it would be a lot busier but because of the pandemic there are still tourists here but not as many. We're going to come across another set of stairs and that will also take us to the Royal Mile. If you look at these buildings, this is part of the old town. Look how beautiful they are and look how old they are. But the architecture in Edinburgh is just stunning. And these buildings are from 1800s at least. The oldest building in Edinburgh is obviously the castle, it's about 800 years old. It never amazes me that in the times when they didn't have cranes and lifts and all the modern equipment that we have today, that they could build these buildings so high with such intricate detail and with beautiful shaped windows, some of them are arched.
So Lubna, don't you think some credit goes to the city council as well for maintenance of these buildings?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, Edinburgh is a heritage site, really. The whole of Edinburgh, I would say, is a heritage site, and the council has to work very hard to maintain these buildings. Some of them they own, a lot of them are privately owned. I love this street because there's so many individual different shops. Some are designer shops, a lot of them make their own stuff and sell it here. Absolutely beautiful. But there was one thing I wanted to say to you. You know, when we were at Scots Monument, this is a little known fact, there are more statues in Edinburgh of men and animals than there are of women. What is
women?
Yes,
Patriarchal city, eh?
very much so. So we got to change that, people. Edinburgh is for women. देखो कितना खूबसूरत ये नहीं फिर फोर्ट है हमारे सामने कितना खूबसूरत है ये हम यहाँ खड़े होके एक तरफ ये फिर फोर्ट है पानी है और दूसरी तरफ हम जाएंगे वहाँ कैसल होगा कितना ये जो हम खड़े हैं ना इसको कहते हैं हाई स्ट्रीट और रॉयल माइल कहते हैं इसलिए बिकॉज जब क्वींस और किंग्स आते थे ना ये रास्ता वो लेके आते थे हॉलीवुड पैलेस से वो सबसे आखिर में है हॉलीवुड पैलेस वहाँ जाते थे फिर वहाँ अपने कैरेजेस लेके ना इस स्ट्रीट पे जाते थे इसलिए कहते हैं रॉयल माइल. So this is called, look, if you look at, we can see the sea, that's the Firth of Forth. One side we have the sea, beautiful, looking so beautiful, and behind that we have Fife, and then to the right, as we walk up the hill, we'll have the castle. So this street here is called the High Street, but it's also called the Royal Mile. And it's called the Royal Mile because in the olden days, the kings and queens would bring their procession along this street. So that's why it's called the Royal Mile, because it was for the royalty. यहाँ सारे ना स्कॉटिश दुकानें हैं जैसे टार्टन बेचते हैं कैशमेयर बेचते हैं और जो खाने वाली जगह हैं वो सारे स्कॉटिश जैसे फिश एंड चिप्स हैं और लेकिन अभी हम जाएंगे एक दुकान के सामने उसका नाम है फ्रिंज शॉप. तो अगस्त में एडिनबरा में एक फेस्टिवल होता है उसका नाम है एडिनबरा फ्रिंज फेस्टिवल. हर साल पूरे दुनिया से लोग आते हैं यहाँ ड्रामा करने के लिए म्यूज़िक करने के लिए कॉमेडी करने के लिए और कोई जगलर होते हैं. अगस्त में बहुत ही मसरूफ़ बहुत सारे लोग होते हैं. अब तो ये बहुत क्वाइट है तो ये दुकान में हम टिकट ख़रीद सकते हैं. क्यू शुरू होती है ये क्लोज़ है उसके पीछे जाएं जहाँ लिखा ना फ्रेंच टिकट सेल्स वहाँ टिकट्स ख़रीदते हैं. यूजुअली क्यू उस क्लोज से आके पूरे या स्ट्रीट में होती है.
Hi ladies. Hello.
This building in front of us is Edinburgh City Chambers. This is a silent disco that we're having here, which annoys everybody so much. This is St Giles' Cathedral. St Giles is the patron saint of Edinburgh. If you look at the architecture, it's absolutely stunning. If you like what you're seeing, then why don't you subscribe to Scotistani on YouTube channel? It'd be wonderful to have your support.